Is artificial intelligence truly better than human Google Ads marketer? We're about to find out. Welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Dyer. Grateful to have you here. Please share this episode with your friends, family, workmates, and please remember to subscribe to this podcast. Today, we have a guest who is doing just that. He's disrupting an entire industry with the innovative approach of artificial intelligence. David Pourquery is the founder and CEO of GROAS, the company behind the world's first fully autonomous AI agent to outperform human Google Ads marketers. Before founding GROAS, David spent several years as a private equity investor at HIG Capital, a Miami-based fund managing over $75 billion in assets. There he developed a rigorous, data-driven approach to evaluating business and identifying operational inefficiencies. These are the skills that would later shape how he thought about broken economics of digital advertising. David has also built and scaled a portfolio of seven-figure e-commerce brands, giving him first-hand experience with frustrations of managing ad spend, expensive agencies and that under-deliver, clunky tools that create more work, and the constant feeling that money is left on the table. David, welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast.
Thank you, Anthony. That's quite an intro, but yeah, happy to be here.
Good to have you here. David, before we go into some questions, and I'd love for you to share how GROAS came about as well, but before we go into that, share with us your journey in life from childhood to now and what got you into marketing and Google Ads.
Wow. How far back do I go? So look, I was actually born in France, but moved to the UK when I was like 2 years old, so I don't remember much. Grew up in the UK, grew up in London, which is quite a cool place to grow up in. There's so much that happens there, so much that goes on. Went to university also in London, studied computer science. I'd been programming since I was quite young. I was self-taught around 13 or 14. I started like teaching myself how to code back when coding was actually useful. So yeah, did that, studied computer science, and then again, whilst I was finishing my university, didn't really have a good idea into what I wanted to do. Always on my mind was entrepreneurship. I'd done a few little businesses here on the side whilst growing up. But yeah, basically got dragged into the world of investing. Basically, my first job was at actually a venture capital firm, small one in London. Then went to private equity. Whilst I was there, hating life, to be honest, knowing I needed to get out ASAP. So started doing e-commerce during weekends when I had time, which is very little when you're working in private equity. Did that, and then whilst I was doing e-com, figured out, hold on, spending a lot of money on Google Ads, Meta Ads, etc. I figured out that specifically with Google Ads, there was some stuff that could be improved. So that is how GROAS began. So it's a long story. GROAS started off as like a little tool. We can get into that journey. But yeah, that was effectively the story.
Thanks, David, for sharing that. Quite a wide, expansive, what would you call it, I guess, experience of that you've had across many industries. Now, David, tell us, you've made a bold claim that your autonomous AI agents at GROAS can outperform human Google ad marketers with a $35 million in a monthly managed spend. And that's a lot, real-world data behind that statement. Can you walk us through what outperform actually means and also the context and share some most compelling data points that you've seen illustrate that superior performance?
In Google Ads, there's only one metric that matters. At the end of the day, different marketers will say different things, CPA, whatever. The only thing that matters is your ROAS, your return on ad spend. Funny enough, that's actually the name of our GROAS is definitely linked to that. So that's really what I'm benchmarking against, right? It's what was your ROAS before using GROAS versus after. Okay. Now, again, to be clear, we did not start off with full autonomy. Like it took probably 9 months to a year to get here. We start off as a tool. It was like a little SaaS product that people used that to potentially, hopefully, improve their campaign. So like GROAS would recommend, hey, you should add this keyword, remove this, whatever. Quite basic stuff, pretty uninspiring. But that allowed us to get hundreds of customers, basically, because it was a super low little like entry ticket price point. We made a bit of noise and had hundreds of customers across all sorts of verticals, niches, locations all around the world. That was great. About 3-4 months into that, we started to get, it's funny, like the lowest spenders tend to be the most demanding. And they were like, what? I want like full autonomy. Is this even possible? And it got me thinking, is this even possible, right? So that basically prompted like a 6-month rebuild from scratch, using a lot of the stuff we had, but also most importantly, training our own custom models based on all the custom data we had as to how we could have campaigns that work 24/7 around the clock and take any action that a human can inside the Google Ads console. Right. And effectively that's where we got to, right? 1st of Jan, we released it into the wild and been growing really well since. Now, yeah, look, it's it's a very, very tough ask. Doing this at scale is really challenging. There are so many, because of course, each business will advertise in a different way. There's so many different data points, so many like learnings that we've done. But the good thing is that the more we grow, the better our algorithms get.
Mm.
So that's been one of I think, the big advantages we've had so far. Because as far as I know, there is no one remotely close to doing this, and excuse my French, who's had the balls to deploy full autonomy on people's real money. Like people are spending real money, so like they entrust us with
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, but you've obviously proven that from a manual perspective, like the process that you've followed over that 9 months, right? And then you've when someone's asked or people have asked whether it can be automated, you go, well, hang on, maybe we can, and you don't know until you try. Especially in this day and age, where with AI you can actually automate a lot of stuff. I mean, I've just done something with my guest management process, which you've been through. It used to take me hours and days to, back and forth. Now, how do you measure the outperformance compared to the traditional human-led campaigns?
Yeah, so again, it comes back to ROAS, right? The other thing as well is you have to take into consideration what GROAS would charge versus maybe an agency, right? So let's just say, I don't know, just to give you a ballpark number, 15K of ad spend, right? GROAS comes in at 1K management fees. A typical agency, if they're any good on paper, would charge you minimum between, I don't know, $4,000 to $6,000 plus maybe other things as well a month.
Wow. Yeah.
That's extra money you could be putting into your campaigns. Right. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to for us. The other thing as well is that our customer base obviously is number one. We displace agencies effectively. People fire their agencies and come to us. Okay, great, makes sense. The other one is agencies themselves who are just plugging their end customers into GROAS, not telling them a word. The end customers never find out. It's impossible for them to know, and basically just charge the difference between the retainer that they are asking of their client versus what they pay us for doing zero work, because now we take
Mm,
ownership of that client.
mm.
So that's another quite interesting trend that we're seeing more and more from now.
Yeah. I think that's going to happen more and more in other areas as well. What are some of the common pitfalls that inefficiencies that you've observed in human managed campaigns
Yeah.
that growers and AI can specifically address and improve on?
Yeah, I think the big one from having taken over a lot of accounts from agencies and freelancers and people who've accounts that have had a lot of different management over the years, right? The number one thing is the activity, like the actual number of daily optimizational changes that these agencies will do. It is very often extremely minimal. They might log into the account once or twice a week, pause a couple keywords, add maybe a couple extra ones, pause a couple ads. Like this is super, super uh like basic stuff, which they're just doing again. It's like 2 hours of work a week. The difference with GROAS is it's working 24/7. So it's making changes
Mm,
around the clock 24/7 based off the live data it's seeing. And that I think for us is the key to our performance is that it can ingest more data than the human can, right? Because we're just feeding it so much more context. But more importantly, it's taking these actions much quicker than a human might, right? A human might log in the next morning and say, oh no, we just got destroyed at auction yesterday. GROAS would have seen this and
mm,
taken action to remedy and stop that from happening. So that's really where it comes from, right? Us making these claims that we can beat what a human can do. But again, it's still a long road ahead. I think in terms of the GRAS performance, the algorithms we deploy are just going to keep getting better and better. So I'm actually
mm.
excited for the future for sure.
Yeah, and that's actually good for the customer as well, because if you're getting if the AI is picking up on these things and taking action on them, and also the turnaround's a lot quicker with GROAS, right, rather than human.
Seconds.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you share a specific case study or an example where GROAS significantly shifted the performance metrics of one of your clients, like Calix or DocuSign or someone?
Yeah, there's hundreds at this point. I don't know. I'm a lot less close to the customers these days. I used to be, back when I started GRAS, It was like a tool when entry fee was like $49, $79. I had them on my WhatsApp. I literally had like 50 to 100 people phoning me 24/7. It could be a Friday at 2 a.m. and I would wake up, get out of my bed, and fix their stuff. These days, obviously, I have zero interaction. It's tough to say. There's countless. Some customers we have confidentiality with, some we don't. Probably, actually, I can give you the example of our first ever customer ever was a South African gentleman, and his business was called NetLayer IT Services. I think we took over his account. He was getting, I think, I don't know, 1 or 2 phone calls a week. He was getting destroyed by these freelancers he'd found on Upwork. He ended up having to basically stop running Google Ads after 2 months with us because his sales team couldn't handle the volume. No, seriously, they couldn't handle the volume that he was getting.
Yeah.
I guess that's the one I'd say top of mind, but yeah, there's obviously a lot more.
Yeah, nice. Now, it's truly impressive that you've bootstrapped Growas and managed to such a significant volume of spend, all while retaining 100% ownership of your and also zero VC funding. And there's not many companies that are that don't go after VC funding, and or traditional sales teams many entrepreneurs dream of. So, can you unpack the strategic decisions and the unconventional growth tactics that you employed to achieve this? And what were some
I
of the
mean,
mindset shifts that you had to go through?
the reason most people do is because they haven't worked in it before. I have, so I know.
Yeah, yeah.
I know the secrets of that world. I know how it works. Therefore, I knew like I don't want to touch VC money. At least I'm not saying all VC money is bad. Obviously, I'm not trying to generalize, etc., etc. But it comes with so many pitfalls that most entrepreneurs just don't know, and they think, yeah, I'm going to raise money that's going to solve my problems. It's just not how it works. It will actually probably increase your problems. The reason is you got to understand, when I was working at VC, I saw this a lot of times where you had a company do the very hard part of, number one, building a good product, like something that people want, and number two, building a good team, a team that works together well, good culture, etc., etc. And they do the hard part of doing those things, but because they can't raise money for the next round, go bankrupt. Even though they've done the hard part of doing those two key things, and they can't raise money for the next round because they're not growing like this, which is what a VC needs. And of course, also most people also don't understand is that a VC's incentives are not aligned with yours.
Hmm.
When you take money from a VC, what do they want? They want you to go and raise more money as quickly as possible from somebody else at a high valuation. Why? So they can go to their own investors, their own limited partners, and say, hey, look, I'm a genius. We're 3x up on paper in the last 3 months on this investment I made. They just raised more money. We're a genius. Give us more money. And then they collect their management fees. They're effectively incentivizing you, pushing you to building a structurally unprofitable business that has to burn money every month to survive and constantly be raising more money.
Hmm.
So I saw so many things like this. Like whilst working in the industry, I have a lot of good friends with VCs, like very good friends of mine. So yeah, that's the big one, right? And the second thing is I wanted autonomy, right? Do things exactly what I want. Like no
Hmm.
one can tell me to do anything, right? I wake up when I want, travel where I want. Not that I'm trying to build a lifestyle business, far from it, right? Working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it's more like I can take the decisions that I think are best for GROAS on my terms. And if I mess up, then that's on me. But it wasn't because somebody was whispering anything in my ear, like I have to, appease some kind of board member. It's on me, and so that as well was very important for me.
Yeah. It sounds like going with VCs is like selling your soul
It's
to
just
the dark
dangerous.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not your company anymore. That's the key thing. Is that you're no
Yeah.
longer the owner of that company. And the other thing as well, most people don't realize is this money comes with terms. There are countless examples where you see
Hmm.
these things where they're like, we sold a company for 500 million, and the founders walk away with $0, zero, because of things like liquidity preferences that come when you're taking VC money, where they're basically they're required to get 2x on their money back before you can get paid out of anything. Most people don't know these things, and they only see the headlines, sold for $500 million, but actually no one made money. So yeah, I think you got to be careful. You got to be careful. I'm not saying you should never take it. Some cases warrant it. If you're doing something like Elon level hard, where you're putting rockets in space, you're solving like really complicated biotech problems. And that's super capex heavy. You need money up front, of course. But I
Yeah.
think if you're building something where the cost of building software has come down dramatically in today's day and age, do you really need it? I think you should think twice.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm not going after VC. I'm building it. Myself. And had a few episodes ago, I had Pranav Dalal, who started his business 25 years ago, and he didn't go after VCs. And 25 years later, he's still going strong.
There you go.
So there you go. You can actually do it. So let's have what are some of the key challenges that you faced scaling without external funding, and how
Yeah.
did you overcome them?
Yeah. So number one was extremely obvious is I need to put together, even if it's this was in 2025, so that I think the coding models were definitely not where they're at today. But it's like I need to put together a team to actually build this thing. I have an idea. Obviously, I can code myself. That's great, but actually, it's a very bad use of my time to be spending all day coding. I need to be doing the other things, sales, all the marketing stuff. Like, and doing this, by the way, with a budget of effectively $0, and then building a team, etc., etc. That was challenge number one: is finding good talent to get this thing off the ground and build an MVP effectively that people would kind of pay for and be interested in renewing and not churning. That was by far the hardest. Once the product was, I'm talking about the SaaS tool, not full autonomy, because by this point, obviously, we were a lot more established. But once that tool was in place and we are getting paying customers, that forced me, by the way, to be profitable from day one.
Mm.
Right, I had to be profitable from day one, otherwise GROAS didn't survive. Which is why, as well, I was so customer obsessed. Like, I literally gave them my WhatsApp number, and they were paying $49 a month, and I was going so above and beyond, like you couldn't even understand. I was doing like 5K at least of value for them, like going in, send out campaign, like all this stuff for, because I was just also getting feedback on the product, which is the most important thing. If I hadn't done that, I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you today. GROAS wouldn't exist.
Mm. Mm.
That was the most important thing I think I ever did, which is for the first like 6 months, complete and utter obsession, 24/7 around the clock. No request was too small. Whatever you needed, you would get, and like we'd be here to fix it. That basically enabled us to build GROAS to where it is today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the biggest challenge, effectively, starting with limited money and having to build an actual product that people will pay for.
Mm.
I think
Mm.
today, with where the coding models are at, it's probably a bit easier, arguably, but you still have the other big equation. You can build whatever you want. You have the other big equation is how to get people to pay for that. Strangers on the internet who have no idea who you are. I didn't have it. It's not like I had have some big personal brand or anything like that, or actually even any big contacts who could just be like, yeah, I'll pay you for this. These were cold traffic customers, and you have to get them to convert and believe in what you're building. So yeah, that was the hardest. Obviously now we're in a different place. We have the capital to just take big bets, marketing bets, technology bets, and we're in a different place. But at the start, that was really tough.
Yeah. And that leads me to my next question is like, what role did product-led growth or word of mouth play in the early adoption of that expansion, especially without a dedicated sales team?
I mean, yeah, look, again, all our customers at the beginning came from either organic/SEO, so basically LLMs recommending GROAS, somebody searching up Google Ads tool and then GROAS coming up recommended, great, or obviously referrals. Like that is basically what took us to 7 figures ARR. Now we're in a different game. Now we're like, okay, we need to take control of our sales and build predictable systems that scale with time. We're now, by the way, running GROAS on GROAS, so that's super exciting. We're running our own Google Ads and GROAS is doing all of it. And that's super fun.
Mm.
But yeah, effectively, that's what it was at the start. It was all product led, all people referring other people, but only because I think we were so obsessed that people are like, I'm getting so much value out of this for like what I'm paying. I should probably stick around and recommend others. But yeah, it was very tough times for sure.
Nice. Thank you for that. Okay, so for founders who are actually wanting to looking at bootstrapping, what is one piece of advice that you'd offer them regarding maintaining their ownership and achieving at scale?
Well, I think that before you even start the journey, I think you have to figure out if what you're doing is worth building, right?
Mm.
Will people pay for this in the first place? Because you're going to need that. Like, if you want to bootstrap, you need paying customers from day one. You can't go 6 months building this thing and then you take it to market, you do some launch for product hunt and it flops. You've just wasted 6 months of your life you'll never get back. What I did and what's actually the correct way of doing things, I think, is buy a domain, set up a landing page, and then don't build anything just yet. Put on the landing page what you're offering. This thing will do X, Y, Z. And then start collecting leads, like email leads, and then email these people, and then get on calls with these people and say, look, I haven't built this thing yet. If I do, will you pay me for it? And then whatever. Let's say you get 100 leads. 15 or 20 will respond to your email max. 5 will get on a phone call. And then maybe 2 or 3 of these people will be like, yeah, sure, I might pay you for that. And then only one of them will eventually pay you for that. The second you get that, all right, that's enough validation, keep building. But it has to be cold traffic, not friends, not family, not friends of friends. It has to be people you don't know who are willing to give you money for it.
Mm.
That's the first thing I would solve before I spend any time building anything. After that, yeah, sure. Then you can build the thing, and then try get the word out there. But if you have limited marketing funds, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for sure. You have to get
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, like so someone like me who has like what you've seen, what I've talked to you about, and previously what I've done and built for the podcast, right? I've systemized everything, and then I've realized, hey, actually, this is a product that I could sell because it's like, what is a problem that I can solve here? So in my case, having a guest management system or Creator OS is like there's a lot of manual work that goes on, and having a platform where you can do majority of the stuff in one place makes sense, rather than having subscriptions all around the place. And so that's what I've done for myself. And so I guess I've identified problems that I had that I can then relate to the creators and podcasters as well. So looking ahead at 2026, you've suggested that the most Google Ads campaigns will fail, and this is a fairly strong statement, right? And you're pretty confident about that. So from your unique vantage point at Growas, what is the fundamental shifts happening in the digital advertising landscape that will lead to this widespread failure of traditional approaches?
Oh, right, yeah, fine. I think all campaigns will fail. No, but I think if you're doing, if you're being lousy, in the sense of I have to be careful what I say here, not to get myself in trouble, but uh, with whoever. But I think you've got to be a lot more careful, for a lot of reasons. So number one is that Google search and Google's changing. It has to change massively because of ChatGPT, whatever, the way people are searching is now different. The massive threat that people are just going to stop using Google, completely overblown, right? Google is a $1 trillion company for a reason. They're going to adapt, but that means that like Google search itself is now in a massive changing mode. What that means is their ad engine, which is like the backbone of the entire business, is also going to be in a massive changing mode. So I think advertisers are going to have to adapt to that, which is the way that ads maybe worked historically in terms of what worked with auctions, et cetera, is now going to change a lot. Second, though, that's going to make, I think, Google a lot more competitive because probably the barrier to entry is going to be lower, right? It might be easier to set up ads, but to actually optimize around the clock will be harder because a lot more can go wrong. If you're giving a lot more control to Google with your budget, they can kind of do as they see fit. And sometimes
Mm,
the incentives aren't super aligned in terms of what's best for your business and then what's obviously best for Google. Just they just want to ideally charge as much money as possible. So I think, yeah, I think things are changing. We're seeing it ourselves, right? We have customers who historically, I don't know, they're spending 200, 300K a month profitably, growing, and then a couple changes in the algorithm are massively impeding them, massively. And they need to completely rethink their strategy basically overnight. We're seeing this firsthand right now. And yeah, and I think the AI search thing is probably the main thing to blame for that. So there's an adjustment period, but I think, in 1 or 2 years' time, things will be a lot more clear.
yeah, and I guess in this transition time until you get some sort of normality, I guess I don't even
Yeah.
know if the normal is is possible now. Is It's going to get a bit confusing for people, I'm guessing. And how do they? What's your advice on keep?
Yeah, it's $1 million question. It's $1 million question. We do our best, right? We have weekly chats all of the time with different Google reps across the entire world in their HQ, in the European offices. So like we try and have a pulse on what's going on inside Google, but they themselves sometimes are a bit far removed from what's actually happening at the algorithmic level. They also have their own incentives. So it's tricky. It's tricky. I think the best thing you can do is number one, test and experimentation yourself, like see what's working, because that will also constantly change. And two, try and have good inside contacts at Google and also people who know what they're doing.
Okay.
These are the only things you can do, but yeah, everyone is kind of figuring it out as they go along, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's going to change the user behavior as
Mhm,
well.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you feel that the user behavior will change from that point?
So, okay, if we go into a mode where, let's say, Gemini, whatever, so Google switched to Google Search completely overnight to what like a ChatGPT interface, right? Where it basically just uh, gives you the answers straight up. So you say, give me the best so and so near me. It just gives you the top answer. That might change ads a lot because now we might be heading into a world where actually we have zero clicks. Ads are based entirely off tracking. You need to be able to track this person clicked on my ad at this time, they then converted at this time, etc., etc. If we move into a zero-click world where they're just seeing the response, they'll see, hey, this restaurant was recommended, and then in a separate tab or whatever it is, go and convert at that website. No one has any understanding of where that came from, and you can't track your ad spend as well. That I think is the big shift that's happening. And again, I think Google themselves are figuring it out as well as they go
Figure it
along.
out.
They
Yeah,
are as well, for sure.
yeah, yeah. One thing, I'm fumbling my way through all of this because I mean, it's not my forte, and when I built my website for the Champion Mindset Collective, um, I was like going, well, how do I get LLMs to start crawling my website? And because I built it on Lovable, I created this process within Lovable that goes and tags it, goes into every single page and puts SEO content in there. And all of a sudden, I've seen in the last 2 weeks that there's Googlebot, Bingbot, and a couple of other things crawling and scanning pages. So what happens to that information once it's scanned, when those crawlers come and scan it? Where does it go?
And they basically store it just to serve their responses quicker.
Right.
Okay, they're quite. Sometimes they can be quite lazy. So, for example, just to give you an example here, our pricing at GROAS changed, right? But sometimes when you ask Google or GPT or whatever it is, what is GROAS pricing? It's going to tell you something from before because it hasn't crawled it in a while. Instead of
Right.
actually going in real time, like it should, and telling you the real pricing. So yeah, that's basically the use of that.
Right. Okay. So how does now GROAS specifically adapt to these anticipated changes to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I do think we are as ahead of the curve as you can be when it comes to Google Ads. I will say this
Yeah.
without being too arrogant, but I think we are. We'll have to see. Everyone is having to stay ahead of the curve. Agency owners are probably in a bit of a panic because of what's happening. Businesses are going to have to adapt very quickly. We just take it day by day. The one thing I will say though is we are not just sticking to Google Ads. Watch this space. We are going to be expanding into other, let's say, complementary verticals that would really work nicely with what we're doing with Google Ads. So we're not just going to be just Google Ads forever. No, and be solely dependent on that. We want to help businesses in all the ways we can help them, right? So paid ads is one way, but there's many other ways you can grow online. It's not just paid ads. So yeah, we're right now in process of building some other stuff, which I'm even more excited about, to be honest. So yeah, longer term, I think it's just we're going to try to diversify what we can offer people, and the people will be able to pick and choose and see what works for them. But yeah, longer term, that's the play.
Yeah. And what sort of mindset do you think that people need to have at this through, as these changes are happening in this transition?
Patience. Patience is number one. And this is hard
Patience.
to say as someone who is extremely impatient. But yeah, patience. I think patience is number one. Paid ads has been and always will be about testing and experimenting until you find that winning angle, that winning variation, and then you scale that. And then you do that, and it'll stop working after a little bit, and you have to go again, test, whatever. So I think patience, and that goes for small advertisers all the way up to the really big budgets. I think if you're patient and you're diligent, you will eventually do well with paid ads, regardless of your size. But obviously,
Yeah.
the bigger you are, the easier it is to do better.
Yeah. Okay. So for direct to consumer brands, B2B, SaaS companies, or a small medium business listening, what is one immediate practical change that they should make to their Google Ads strategy to avoid future failure?
It's very general. It's very a lot of ways. I would say do not, and again, no disrespect to Google, please, we like you. Don't just auto apply Google recommendations in your campaigns. We'll leave it at that. That is the number
Yeah.
one thing we see where people go wrong, especially the smaller end. Don't just click auto apply, because Google will give you their own recommendations. Sometimes they're not in your best interest. Sometimes they don't know the context of your business as well as you do. So that is just the most generic thing I can think of that would apply to everybody.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the Google recommendations may not be 100% accurate, and
Yes.
that's probably where a human needs to be able to apply the critical thinking and help. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So GROAS represents a significant leap in the agentic AI for business operations. This isn't just an AI-powered tool, but it's a fully autonomous agents. Beyond Google Ads, where do you see the most significant opportunities for agentic AI to truly replace or fundamentally transform other core business functions in the next 3 to 5 years? And are there any specific areas that human judgment might be still indispensable?
I mean, yeah, it's already happened in coding, right? That's already happened. Now you can have one engineer doing the work of 5 or 10 from like not even a year and a half ago, probably more. So software engineering is a bit over, especially I think for unfortunately the more entry level people. There are much bigger disadvantages than more experienced people. So that's probably the first one that I would say, but that's already occurred. Then, I mean, look, there's all typical back office tasks, right? Accounting, client reporting, like all this like basic back office task, admin type of tasks. I think already probably with OpenClaw can be done
Mm,
better, to be honest.
yeah.
And then I think we move into like the more, I would say, sophisticated type of white collar work that historically was priced quite high, right? Whether that's high finance or law, they're already being displaced a lot. Like for example, even for us, right? Whenever I have a legal query, I don't always just pick up the phone to my lawyer. No, I will first triple
Ching,
check.
ching, ching.
Exactly, exactly. I will first triple check with whatever LLM I'm using to see what the best solution might be. So I think these things are definitely at a lot of risk for sure. And then again, I think probably for us, to be honest, then you have like the much harder stuff. I think PPC is really hard to automate. I want to be super clear on this. It's really, really hard. Um, but then there's other things like SEO, for example. The SEO, like so many different things you can do to improve your SEO. So many. So if you can have an agent that's constantly scanning and finding these opportunities, that's interesting. That's already happening. Yeah, the short answer to me is anything that can be done at a computer. Anything that can be done at a computer is probably at significant risk right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we've already seen that here in New Zealand. Where I read a report this morning where they're saying that the younger generation who are wanting to go into the workforce,
Yeah,
that they're already having trouble getting jobs, right? And
sure.
then you've got, like you said, you've got the established developers or SaaS developers. They're getting replaced by AI. I mean, I've built a whole ecosystem, SaaS ecosystem for this whole podcast and my AI business using Lovable AI, and I've done zero coding.
Yeah,
And the two platforms I've used is ChatGPT to ideate and
yep,
Lovable to build,
yep,
and everything just works.
yep, yep,
and
yep, yep,
and it's just mind blowing because all it takes me is to a few minutes to ideate something with ChatGPT and then come up with a plan and then go right, go and build this, and it does it. So it's interesting where it's heading now. What does the term agentic AI truly mean in a practical business context for those who are less familiar with that concept?
Yeah, I mean, I would define it as different specialized agents completing individual business tasks autonomously, whilst as well having a sense of interconnection. So each agent should ideally know what the other one is doing, and basically working as a network to complete a business task. That would be my basic definition.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the ethical considerations or potential downsides that we need to be mindful of as agentic becomes more prevalent in business operations?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's figured get out the job loss thing yet. We'll have to see. I mean, at the start I was so like bearish and I was so like scared. I was like, it's over for humanity, whatever. But then again, I mean, I'm just seeing that at least for us, well, I can only speak to the industry we're in. It just means that people are spending their time differently. So an agency that's using GROAS, okay, now maybe they don't need to hire more headcount to do the manual day-to-day operations of running client accounts. But it means they can spend a lot more time on the client relationship aspect, on the overall strategy of how they can help the business. Or maybe they're now getting into different business lines and increasing their LTV that way. So humans are naturally problem solvers. So I think, look, we'll see. I was initially, like I said, always very bearish. I think it's over, completely over. But I think what I'm seeing now, at least in the last few months, is that, firstly, these changes take a lot longer than people think. Even if the tech is there today to replace, let's say, all of white collar work, by the time that happens, it could be 5, 10 years by the time that actually happens. So
Yeah,
firstly, these changes take time. And two, yeah, I think humans will try and find other ways of making themselves useful. And I think relationships, we've evolved over hundreds of thousands of years for that to be still very, very important. So yeah, that's at least what I'm seeing
yeah.
on the ground.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like at this point in time, it's not completely there in terms of being able to just completely automate everything. There is that still that creativity, the creativity and the critical thinking that needs to be applied, and then be able to monitor what the AI is doing. So I see that we will have a shift where people will become managers of AI
Yep,
agents, and then at some point in the, like you said, 5 to 10 years, and by then, we'll have super intelligence or whatever, right?
quite
And
possibly.
then who knows what that's going to bring?
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah. The key is not to be scared and not to be fearful of it, but to just lean in and embrace it as it
yep.
comes. Yeah, and
Agreed.
grow with it. Grow with it. Yeah. How do businesses begin to identify which of the operations is right for agentic AI transformation, and what is the first step they should take?
I think every business operation is right for. I think literally everything. You can even sales, arguably. I'm seeing some incredible stuff in like literal like person to person sales, like demo calls or phone calls, where it's like, oh wow, like this is maybe on the level of a human, possibly, maybe better. I would argue that possibly anything and everything at this point is available for that. What is the first step? I think the question then comes to buy or build. You're going to try build it yourself or try buy something off the shelf. I think typically the better approach, if you're brand new to something, is buy. And then if you're really keen and you're like, okay, fine, I can actually save a lot of money trying to build this myself, then maybe build. But yeah, I think buy and then build is probably the the step I would take. But yeah, I think anything and everything that a business does can be automated.
Okay, so given your background in private equity investing at HIG Capital, were you focused on identifying, where you focus on identifying operational inefficiencies, how did that rigorous data-driven perspective directly influence the development and the design of GROAS AI?
Yeah, I think look, the first thing you learn in investing, whether that's investing in venture capital, so like early stage businesses, especially there, or private equity where you're taking on a big established business and trying to make it better, the first thing you see is that talent is the most important thing. Like who you hire, who you fire, like all the this is the main driver of a business. Example, right? Elon Musk can start any business. He's going to be successful. It's just what it is. Whether you like the guy or not, I'm not talking about that. He is always going to be successful. That's just who he is. And so I think you learn that in hiring. You got to, find good people and pay them well so they never leave, but also like incentivize them and challenge them. So that's definitely the first thing I took away from the investing, my time and just investing in general, is that the success of the business really depended on the CEO we put in place, because that will affect who he hires, who he or she hires. So yeah, that's number one. And then two as well, I realized that you can, if you hire well and you give people a lot of responsibility, you can then run actually a very lean team. You can run a lean team. I think what we're doing at GROAS for the level of spend that we have, probably never done before to have such a lean team, right? We're like about 10 people at this point. For the
Mm,
amount of spend we manage, never happened in a PPC agency ever. Like
no.
typically that would be like, I don't know, 50 to 75, maybe 100 people possibly for the level of spend we
Mm,
manage. So if you hire the right people, put the right systems in place, give them autonomy, pay them well to make sure they never leave, then you can actually build a better business. So I think that's the number one thing around just operationally, it comes down to people. Always comes down to people. And the second thing as well, I think I learned whilst running GROAS is that I think the second if you have a feeling punch, whether it's good or bad, I think you should always act on it immediately, right? Somebody not performing well, you need to act on that quickly. No half measures. And somebody performing well, same thing there. Reward them instantly. So yeah, I would say that's the number one thing I've seen just from my time in investing.
yeah. Were there any specific inefficiencies that you observed in the traditional ad agencies that become problems for growers to solve?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at a traditional ad agency, right? Okay, they're gonna have one like client-facing person who's typically based in the country where the client is. So, like in the US or the UK or whatever it is, they're based from there. They're the face. But then behind the scenes, they will have overseas media buyers, so people based maybe in the Philippines or India or whatever. It's just a bit all over scattered, who are doing the day-to-day account
Mm,
management. And they're often actually completely overloading these people with tasks and accounts, which reflects in the quality of the campaigns. And I think that's the big one. It's that they hire maybe talent that isn't optimal and then overload them completely with work, and often mundane work that can be better automated. So that's the number one thing. And then obviously they typically will obviously massively. That's one thing we've seen that lock people into long-term contracts, put in place so many fees if they leave, etc., etc. And I think that's what's really broken in the agency model. So I think maybe players
mm.
like Grass might change that, but let's see. It's early days.
How has your investor's mindset informed your approach to building and scaling growers without external funding?
Yeah, look, I think every dollar I genuinely see this. Every dollar that is not going back into the business for growth at this point is a
Mm,
dollar that's wasted. It's a dollar that's wasted. So that is the mode we're in now, right? Every single dollar, and we can take these big bets. I'm quite naturally the opposite of risk averse. I like taking risks. So we're at a point now where we can just take big marketing bets, right? We can just blow, I don't know, 30K on this thing because we think it might work. And I'm going to keep doing that. I think that it's probably going to keep doing that until something breaks. I think as an investor, again, I was probably quite definitely on the aggressive side, and I
mm,
like to go after things that maybe other people thought were non-consensus. And yeah, I think I've tried to keep that mindset here, which is being hyper aggressive. Every dollar that we are not spending, putting back into growth, is a dollar wasted. And so that's the main mindset we're in right now.
yeah, yeah. I guess you got to take risks, right, to succeed. Yeah. If you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone, then yeah, you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
go very far. What advice would you give entrepreneurs who are looking to apply the same data-driven, efficiency-focused lens in their own industries?
Yeah, look, I think you have to just track metrics. Metrics is that's the most important thing, I think. Even I myself am guilty of not doing this enough sometimes. But
Mm.
be super objective about everything. Look at analyze your churn. If your churn is bad, you need to solve that first thing. That is number one. Why is your churn bad? Are the people that are leaving? Are they leaving reviews? What's going on? Can you get to the bottom of why things are going the way they're going? That's something we had to contend with, by the way, early in our journey as well. So being hyper objective, looking only at metrics, not how you're feeling. Right? You might think, yeah, we're doing great, but then again, if growth is stalling, that's on you. You have responsibility for that. So being hyper objective about the metrics, pinpointing as to exactly where things are going wrong, that is the way I've always been, and I think that's the way that you have to be if you want to be, you know, with a not much budget. That is the only way you can be.
Now, for audiences, the audience, and they could be D2C, B2B, say SaaS or small medium businesses. What is one of the most important takeaway you'd like them to grasp about the current state of the future of AI advertising?
That things are going to change. Things are going to change a lot. You have to be
That's a
prepared.
given.
I think no one knows what's coming. Like again, even Meta, like we don't do Meta, right? But Meta are pushing so much stuff. I would say try diversify. That would be my short answer. Try diversify. Don't focus all in on one channel because we've seen it countless times where you do that. And then one update could be an innocent
Yeah,
update, could really tank your business overnight. This happens. We've seen that.
yeah,
So I think try to diversify your channels. That is the only way to win, I think, going forward with marketing, especially with what's coming with LLMs. Try be everywhere. Yeah, that'd be my number one advice.
yeah, exactly. Because the changes are going to keep happening, and then one wrong move, and it could end up
Yep,
kill, killing you.
absolutely,
So yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. So how can they begin to embrace these changes rather than resist them and maintain a champion mindset in their business?
That's tricky. Something like mindset is so personal to everybody, right? And I think,
From your
yeah,
perspective,
I mean, look, I said it before, but resilience. I think resilience is the number one thing if you're going to
yeah,
be an entrepreneur. You have to be resilient. I don't care who you are. I don't care, what you've gone through. You're going to get punched in the face repeatedly all of the time. It's going to be an uphill drive. Even like the most successful businesses face the same thing. So I think you have to be extremely resilient, and it's a long game ultimately, right? If you're trying to build a real business, it's going to take time. Unless you want to do gambling, you're not going to get rich quickly. So I think be hyper resilient, uh, and try and be open minded as well. I think I've seen it as well where people are a bit too set in their old ways. Sometimes they think they know better. I think you have to be very open. I think as well, try and you know, get information from as many different sources, people as possible before making your own decisions as well. I think that would be
yeah,
another piece of advice.
yeah. And how do you advise businesses to evaluate whether an AI solution like GROAS is the right fit for their specific needs? Like what are some of the ways they could actually figure out
Yeah,
if you're the right?
I think if we evaluate AI solutions for ourselves all the time, I think social proof is important. Do they have testimonials, customers, reviews, that sort of thing? Then I think the story matters. Like, where are they in their product cycle? Are they early? Can you cut them some slack? Or are they established and therefore, like, you should be seeing results quickly? Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the way most people make buying decisions is typically based on social proof. We see that, right? If so and so said it's good and it's like a well-known brand, I think brand is the key thing that businesses should focus on these days. Brand, especially in the age of AI LLMs, what LLMs think of your brand is going to matter a lot in 5, 10 years time, like a lot.
Yeah,
The sentiment. And the problem is that's hard to control, by the way, because these
yeah,
LLMs to come up with that answer, they take it from like a lot of different places. They'll look at what people are saying about you on Reddit or on some niche forums or in YouTube comments or in this or on that. So I think, yeah, brand is going to be very, very important. You want to make sure
yeah,
to keep that.
yeah. Now talking about brand, I've heard Daniel Priestley and other people say that the personal brand is more important than
Yeah.
the actual company brand. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's becoming more and more true, to be honest,
Mm,
every day. You see this in ecom, Kylie Jenner, whatever, whoever these people are. They will launch some skincare thing, which is extremely commoditized. Anyone in the world can make some skincare product. Just go to China, it takes a second. And they're billion-dollar companies overnight, effectively, through a couple Instagram posts because they are so and so and that's their name. So I think that trend, that observation is super obvious in ecom, and it was obvious like 5, 10 years ago. I think that's going to carry on to other business models. I have friends who are trying to make it in ecom. They have no personal brand, no affiliations with any important people. And I'm like, you are writing, like, this is the biggest uphill battle of your life. So I think building a brand, building a personal brand is one of the highest leverage tasks I think you can do.
yeah. I mean, that's what I've done with my whenever I post on social media, it's always as me. but then I will tag or link in the Champion Mindset or our Workflows agency, and I've also um, integrated the two brands into one. Well, not one, but integrated the two brands so they're actually kind of joined up. And I'm kind of like if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see me in the middle and you've got AI Workflows and Champion Mindset on either side. But I'm the brand and so on. So it's quite important that when you're posting and so on, advertising, that you are the face of the brand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And what's the Champion Mindset approach of navigating rapid changes brought about by the AI in the industry?
You mean your champion mindset, or just what I would say?
Yeah, what's the Champion Mindset approach in
Okay.
your
My.
perspective?
Yeah,
Like I know
yeah.
what it is for me, but for you,
Yeah.
as we go through these rapid changes brought about.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I touched on it earlier, right? Patience and resilience, being open to ideas. And then I think as well, you just have to be super flexible with what's coming, because ultimately, no one, I think, has a good idea. Like Google themselves are figuring it out, and they're $1 trillion company. So it's not possible that you would have it all figured out yourself. Everyone is figuring it out. The government is figuring it out in terms of what it's going to mean for job losses, et cetera, et cetera. So be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's okay to have uncertainty, because right now we are in the most rapid phase of change probably ever, I would say, in human history with
Yeah,
what we're seeing.
I
So
would.
yeah,
I would say there is no such thing as comfortable anymore. I
yeah,
think you've
yeah,
just got
good.
to. And for a number of years, I used to always say I'm always in my uncomfortable
Yeah,
space because you're going through constant change. You're shifting identities every day, and you're
yeah,
shifting absolutely. And the other thing I would say is authenticity is important as well. You know,
yeah.
especially in the age of deep fakes and all sorts of
Hmm.
different things that can happen.
Mm,
Um, Authenticity is quite important.
mm,
Awesome.
yeah, for sure.
Right. So, David, we're at the quick fire questions now. So I've got 6 very quick fire questions that you can answer in a short sentence or a single word. And the first question is, how do you define success, and has that definition evolved for you over time?
Yeah, success is how fulfilled you are in your own life personally, and so that's going to be different for everybody.
Awesome. Who's been your greatest inspiration and why?
Woof. I used to watch a lot of fighting when I was young. Controversial answer: Conor McGregor.
Okay. He's pretty inspirational. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What is something that you believe that others may disagree with?
Ooh, I still have some hope left for humans.
Okay. If you could go back and give young David some advice, what would it be?
Yeah, do exactly what you want sooner in life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
ignore other people's opinions, because they don't know what you know, and they don't know your own capabilities, etc., etc. So do what you feel is right always.
Yeah, 100%. I still always say, when someone said to me, "You can't do that," I'm like, "Okay, let me show you," because I know
Yeah.
my limits. Yeah. And what is one message you like to share with the world?
General message: look, be happy, spread positive, spread positivity, try to do right by others, and to link it to business a little bit. I think your character, how you are, these things are what pay dividend over time. Yeah, your reputation follows you everywhere. So I think if you
Yeah.
can always make sure you do what you feel is right, never try shortchange anyone or whatever it is, I think you'll be fine.
And the very last question, and we've talked about champion mindset. So, what does it mean to you to have a champion mindset and be a champion in your life?
Never give up. Never give up. Until you're dead, you can keep trying.
Yeah. I reckon, people talk about retiring, but I think you don't really retire until you're dead in the ground.
Agree.
So keep going and never give up. Absolutely.
Yep.
Awesome, David. This has been an incredible, insightful conversation. It's clear that the digital landscape, it's changing rapidly, and with autonomous AI agents, it's just going to keep changing.
Yeah, for sure.
The key takeaways for me are the importance of adapting to these changes, understanding that the real data behind AI performance, and the entrepreneurial spirit of bootstrapping a company that challenges the norms. We've been told this is the way to build a company, but challenge it and just do something that's true to you, what
Mm.
feels good to you. And so thank you for joining us on the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with someone who can benefit from it. And remember that, keep cultivating that champion mindset and everything too. Now, one thing I forgot to ask you was, David, if people want to get hold of you or learn more about Growas AI, how can they get in touch with you?
So for me personally, it's dp@groas.ai, or just generally just go to the website groas.ai. That's GROAS.ai. You can find plenty of info there. you can get in touch with somebody there, I'm sure.
Awesome. We'll have a page dedicated for you this episode. It will have all that information on it. It'll be in the show notes. There'll be an article written about this, as well as a guide that people can download and take away with them as well. Yeah. So lastly, I just want to say you are loved, you're worthy, champion your life, champion your greatness, and have an amazing day.
Thank you, Anthony. Real pleasure.
Thank you, David.